This weekend, it was our turn to have a party. About once every month and a half, the six of us, three couples, used to get together in one of our houses. It was Anna's friend Sally and her husband Carl, our neighbor Jackie and her current husband Trent. Sometimes there were others, but that was the main group. We were all in our 20s, and none of us had children. We could not. Sally and Carl didn't want anything. Trent had 2 children from his first marriage, but they lived with his ex. He desperately wanted custody of them. There was food, drinks, and we usually had a theme. Sometimes it was a simple chase, cards, a sporting event on TV, and when we met at Trent's house, we would swim in his pool, weather permitting. The girls, especially Sally and my Anna, organized these parties, calling each other a little to make sure we could get a critical mass together on a certain date. Anna loved to chat and gossip on the phone and enjoyed the organization. She is a busty, curvy woman with wavy, light brown hair. She flirts a little, and it drives me crazy at times. She loves attention, but as far as I know, she never crossed any boundaries while we were together. My family still lives in the coastal town in Oregon where I grew up. I graduated from a state university with a degree in finance and took tests to become a certified financial planner. I was a little introverted, but I enjoyed learning about money, markets, statistics, and the history of our economic system. My father sold insurance in our city, and his honest and solid reputation gave me authority in the financial world of our city. I was actually named after my father. His name was Joseph Washburn, and my name was JT. I started renting an office in his building. I worked hard setting up meetings with people and explaining my strategy for their money. I told them that overall I wanted their money to grow steadily but conservatively. I was associated with one of the national companies and received a lot of financial data from them. I also spent some time doing my own research. It was something I really enjoyed. I was somewhat successful in my first year. My clients were making good, solid profits, and their portfolios were beating the market. I enjoyed sharing office space with my father, and many of his long-term clients became my clients. I made an effort to meet with my clients regularly, get to know them better, and enhance my personal customer service. They enjoyed and valued this contact. When I started my second year, one thing became clear. There weren't enough businesses in our city to make a good living. I had my own financial goals, and as an economics student, I realized that I could not support myself with just business in this city. The weather was good for our party, and we decided to eat outside. We had a large terrace with barbecue and an open kitchen. I asked Anna what she would like the theme for tonight to be. "Let's play a game," she said. "We're going to play a fun and funny game that everyone will enjoy. Doesn't that sound good, JT?" she blurted out. There was a little competition to see who could have the most fun party. I just enjoyed the company, mostly food and drinks. I admit that I really like my wine, and there have been a few times when I have had an extra glass or two. "What game?" "Don't worry, JT. I'll handle it. You just get the barbecue ready." This suited me just fine. I started thinking about the group that was supposed to meet this evening. First, there were Sally and Carl. Sally and Anna have been friends since middle school. Sally is a little plump, but proportionately built. Sally has big breasts. I rate them at 38. She likes to show them off with low-cut tops. Anna does this too, and sometimes I have to deselect her wardrobe. Carl is a diesel mechanic and works in a large shop in our city. He is a good-natured guy and doesn't mind when Sally flirts and shows off. He's a big guy, probably 6'3", 220 or something like that. I rather like him, but I probably would never have chosen him as a friend without the connection between Anna and Sally. Jackie and Trent were neighbors, and I really can't remember how we became so close. Jackie has a simple face but an outstanding body. Not Anna's voluptuous softness, but rather her natural thinness. She's smart, and I find that out of the whole group, I have the most in common with her. Trent is a golfer. He is slim and approximately 5 feet 9 inches tall. There is a certain arrogance in Trent's demeanor. It put me off at first, but I learned to tolerate the guy. I'm not sure I trust him, but he's smart, funny, and lively at these parties. Just at that moment, I heard the doorbell ring, and guests were arriving. I decided to move my financial planning practice to the city. I joined a firm in the city, but also continued my practice in our coastal town. It was only a 2-hour drive between them. My plan was to be there a week a month. That week, I stayed with my parents and met with clients and potential clients. So far, everything has been going well. I roomed with a guy I went to college with, Julian Lee. Julian was an IT specialist and worked for one of the large banks. Julian was a very creative person, and I was surprised that he chose this career path. We had a 2-bedroom apartment in the trendy Maples neighborhood, close to the city center. I could walk to my office, and there were plenty of restaurants, bars, and boutiques within walking distance. It was definitely a young, modern, and hip area. It was in one of these bars that I met Anna. Anna worked at Luca's, a trendy restaurant and bar about 2 blocks from our apartment. I think it was the 3rd time Julian and I were there that I started talking to Anna. To me, she looked like a Playboy bunny. Sensual and beautiful. She always wore something that showed off her breasts and cleavage. Anna was tending bar, and we started talking, and she asked me all sorts of questions about my life, my career, my goals, and so on. To be honest, I was a little surprised that she paid so much attention to me. She was great, and I was a lackluster financial planner. In high school, I had a steady girlfriend, Gail Benson. Gail was attractive, smart, and fun to be around. We tried to make it work during college, but it was too difficult to do. I dated a few girls during college, but during those 4 years, I never had a steady girlfriend. The night we left, I almost asked Anna out on a date. I even got the impression that she wanted it. I was just a little worried that she would say no, and then we would have to find another bar. "Dude, she's hot," Julian said. "You like her. You should ask her out." "You think? And you better do it quickly, or someone will beat you to it." The next evening, I went to Luca's alone and made a date with Anna for Sunday evening, and so we met. I was a little scared. I had never been with such a beautiful girl, but she was showing that she liked me. It didn't take long before she gave me what I considered the ultimate sign: sex. Sex with Anna was like nothing I had ever experienced in my life before. I had several different sexual partners, including my high school friend Gail. In sex, you could say I was a student. Anna had a PhD. We did everything we could. She was completely relaxed. She taught me a lot. She did some things with me, and we did a lot of things together. She has beautiful breasts, a beautiful ass. She is not overweight, but her body is not too dense either. Soft, seductive, and completely feminine. From time to time, I wondered how she learned all these things. How experienced was she? I mean, I knew the answer. She was very experienced. But I avoided discussing sexual history. I was afraid it would be too painful. Any fear I felt about it was more than compensated for by my sexual satisfaction. Everyone was sitting on our back porch. We finished dinner and drank about 2 glasses during the evening. I think I've had my 3rd glass of red wine. I had a long discussion with Carl about how he hoped to get a position as manager of the diesel shop where he worked. He told me that the owner was strictly religious and asked me if I thought it would be a good strategy to attend his church in order to get along well with him. I said that if he was not involved in religion, it might seem insincere. He said he would have to think about it. As we sat and chatted lazily, Sally asked, "So Anna, what are our plans for tonight?" "Okay," Anna began. "Be open-minded, and this is just for fun. We're going to play Truth or Dare." I thought, oh no. But Carl, Sally, and Trent clapped and applauded to show their approval. I looked at Anna and she smiled, then quickly looked at Sally. Carl and Trent grinned. Jackie had a half smile and was the only one around me who wasn't particularly enthusiastic. It started off quite mildly, with a hint of sexual innuendo, nothing too risque. Who is your favorite movie star? How old were you? When did you lose your virginity? Etc. And then it was Trent's turn to ask. He chose Anna, and she chose the challenge. "Anna, I suggest you take off either your shorts or your top." "Wait a minute," I said. "It's okay. I'm wearing underwear. It's like a swimsuit," said Anna. Anna loves attention, and there have been times when her behavior has come close to crossing the line. While I liked a confident sexuality that I considered only mine, I certainly did not want others to experience the slightest intimacy with Anna. She quickly took off her top and stood there in her lacy white bra. Her nipples protrude through the sheer fabric of her bra. The tops of her breasts trembled. She stood up proudly, and Trent and Carl whistled. Sally giggled. "Come on, girl." Anna liked everyone's attention. I was a little angry, but I kept my thoughts to myself. This continued without any problems until Sally dared to show her completely naked breasts. Unlike me, her husband Carl encouraged her. She flashed them, and they were definitely big. Not my type, but big. Everyone laughed except Jackie and me. I said, "One more round and the end of this game." There were a few chuckles and protests, but I was concerned that we might cross the line. It was Anna's turn, and she asked Trent. "Okay, go for it," Trent challenged. "Show your tool in your pants for 10 seconds, Anna challenged. "Don't you dare," Jackie replied. With that, Trent stands up, unzips his pants, and strips off his shorts and boxers. He was 6 inches flabby and not skinny. Both Anna and Sally stared at me. I was shocked, and Carl was laughing. He gyrated a little like a male stripper. When I looked at Anna, she was just staring at his instrument. At that moment, Jackie said, "I'm leaving." She looked furious. She also told Trent that he could get into the car with his clothes on or walk home. Everyone left, and the party was officially over. As we cleaned ourselves up, Anna was uncharacteristically quiet. We were finishing, and I said, "This has gone too far, don't you think?" "Oh, it was just for fun. Don't be such a stick in the mud," she answered jokingly. "Anna, people here were naked and almost naked, and you were one of them." "Nude," she said. "I'll show you naked," and she continued to undress. I quickly and thoroughly became distracted. I was still worried about how the party was going and was determined to have a serious discussion about it tomorrow. I also have to say that I'm not the kind of guy who gets pleasure from his wife exposing herself to other men. I fell asleep sexually satisfied, but a little anxious. On Sunday morning, I got up first and went for a run. While I was running, I planned the discussion I was planning to have with Anna. I was going to point out that I enjoy fun and a good party just as much as everyone else. But my wife and our bodies were just for us. We made this vow the day we got married. I was not going to compromise one bit on this issue. When I returned home, Anna was laughing on the phone. She must have heard me because the laughter stopped and the volume decreased significantly. I actually thought I heard the word undressing clearly before she heard me. "Who was that?" "Oh, just Sally." She giggled. She and Carl had a great time and rated our party as the best to date. About that, I think we should talk about some of the actions last night and, in particular, about your behavior. For the most part, Anna was good-natured, and it took a lot of effort to get her angry. I managed to achieve this with my comment. She told me that it was innocent. It was just fun. No one else was upset, and nothing happened. I tried to calm her down, reason with her, and explain my feelings, but she was not interested. After she attacked me, there was silence. As I started working in the yard, I tried to analyze my feelings. I really didn't think I was being unreasonable. I wanted to give her some freedom to be who she was. That's who I married. I enjoyed her love of freedom, but everything intimate should be mine alone, including the sight of her body. I have to admit, I was a little unsure of myself. Anna is a beautiful, sexy woman, and I'm a pretty simple financial planner. I know I look good and stay in good shape, but I also know that she gets hit on by all sorts of guys all the time. I have no real reason to doubt her fidelity, but before we got married, there were a few incidents that triggered my radar. At that time, we had been dating for almost 3 months and had sex almost all that time. I felt close to Anna. We had some good conversations, and I learned about her life. Her father left home, leaving her mother and older sister. Anna craved male attention, and as soon as her body began to develop, she received it. I didn't want to delve into her sexual history, but it occurred to me that by the time she was 16, her virginity was long gone. It sounded like she had boyfriends and casual friends that she played with, as she put it. No wonder she never had to look too hard to find the next one. She loved attention and knew that with her looks it wouldn't be hard to attract guys. We were invited to a casual acquaintances party this coming Saturday evening. At that time, we had not yet formalized our exclusivity, but, in my opinion, we were exceptional. She said she loved me, and for me, love and exclusivity went hand in hand. It was December, and the party was a little more fancy than usual. When I saw what Anna was wearing, my eyes nearly popped out of my head. It was a red dress that barely covered her breasts. "You like my dress?" she teased. "Anna, you look great, but wow, that's pretty skimpy," I replied. "You know I'll probably have clients there and, well, that's a little over the top." "Well, Anna doesn't get angry often, but when she does, it's almost always because of the way she looks. She got angry. She said I thought she was trashy. She said I thought she was going to embarrass me, and so on and so forth." It took a while. I apologized, and even though it was a little chilly, we went to the party and she wore the dress. The house was big, on the hills, beautiful decorations, lots of food and drink. There were some of my work colleagues there, people I knew from college, and others I knew from the sports club I belonged to. There was a guy at the party I remember from college, a guy called McAllister, one of those arrogant, lovable jerks, confident, with an insinuating smile on his face and combed back black hair. He walked around with this cheeky smile and a glass of champagne. Then he saw Anna. Anna attracted a lot of attention, mostly from men, and much of the attention was focused on her cleavage. She was there for me, and suddenly I became popular among colleagues and casual acquaintances. At one point, I went out to get a drink, and when I came back, McAllister was chatting with Anna. He acted as if I didn't exist. She loved it, all the attention, and now this cute guy was acting like everything she said was the most interesting thing he'd ever heard. I managed to get her away, but as parties go on, you end up drifting one way or the other, and Anna and I break up. I was talking to some work colleagues, and they shared some business ideas that were quite helpful. I realized that more than an hour had passed since I last saw Anna. I took a quick glance into the living room, kitchen, and family room off the kitchen. Nothing. I didn't want to seem worried, but I had a need to find her. I didn't see McAllister either. A group of people were smoking outside, and I stepped out into the winter air. No Anna. I was already returning when I heard it. Her laughter came from the street. I was walking along the sidewalk. She and McAllister were walking down the street. It took her a minute to see me, and as I watched her and McAllister, they seemed to be enjoying each other's company. "Oh, hi, honey. Jim was just showing me his new BMW," she said. "She's just a miracle," McAllister said. "I mean the car," he laughed. I looked at Anna. I didn't see anything special. She just seemed a little rumpled. There was a fake smile on my face. Everything was boiling inside me. Anna came over and hugged me as they approached. "I'm leaving now," I said. "Just wanted to make sure you wanted a ride home." "Of course I want a ride home," she said. "Why not?" She looked at me questioningly. At this point, McAllister slapped me on the back. "It's good to see you again," and extended his hand. "I'm not a bodybuilder now, but I do play sports and I've always had a strong grip." This, and the combination of my anger at Anna and this asshole's impudence, led to me grabbing his arm tightly. He didn't stand a chance, and by the time he realized what was happening, I was already squeezing his hand. His knees buckled, and his mouth was open in a silent scream. "Honey, you're hurt, Jim," Anna cried. "Oh, sorry, it's my fault," I said, and headed towards the car without looking back. By the time I got to my car and buckled up, she caught up with me. This was our first big fight. Usually I really liked her. She looked great, and the sex was beyond amazing, or at least better than anything I've ever heard of. I knew she was an attention seeker and judged her worth by the attention she received from men. At the moment, we have not formalized anything. However, to me, a stable sexual relationship in which we saw each other more than a few times a week and talked about love is the adult version of constant communication, but we never had that specific discussion. I dropped her off, and she looked at me questioningly when I told her I was staying at my place tonight. "Oh, honey, don't. Nothing happened to Jim. We were just having fun." "Well, I think that's just enough for one night for me. See you later." And I left. She called and wrote, but I ignored her. Life went on for me, and I spent the week focusing on my work. The following week, I decided to leave on Saturday morning instead of my usual Sunday evening. I called my mom, and she was thrilled to have me over for the weekend. I had a good week in my hometown. I had some good meetings with clients. Professionally, my established business on the coast and my growing business in the city made me successful. I was achieving my financial goals and getting noticed by my organization. A week ago, I would have said that my personal life was also moving in the right direction. Now I could no longer say it. She continued to text and call, and my responses were minimal. She asked when I would be back, and I told her Friday evening. Before I could enter my house, the doorbell rang. I opened it to Anna. She was wearing a raincoat with a wrapped gift. "This is for you," she said, and handed me the gift. I opened it, and there was a key in the box, an old-fashioned skeleton-type key. "You have the key to my heart," she said. I stared at her with mixed feelings. With that, she unbuttoned her cloak, revealing Miss September, or, to be honest, any other Playboy character from my teenage fantasies. Whatever resolve I had melted away in a wave of lust. Then I asked her about everything that happened at the party with McAllister. I know I shouldn't have gone out with Jim, but he was so sweet. So what happened? Nothing. He tried to mess around a little, but I've been treating guys this way since I was 14. We talked, and I told her that I might be jealous. I went on to say that if she wasn't ready to be my mate, I would be sad, but I would understand. I said I'm not one to fool around. I'm either in a casual relationship or I'm committed. For me, what we had, I explained, was not a casual relationship. She lay on top of me and told me that she was also committed to the cause. She also said that she loves me and wants to be with me forever. And then she began to please me, driving me into insensibility. As I may have said, Anna doesn't hold a grudge, and the week after the Truth or Dare game party went by as usual. She was a sexy, loving woman, just the way I fell in love. I continued to watch, and nothing unusual happened. If anything, she was more attentive to me, and seemed to interact less with Sally, at least when I was around. One Saturday, I was working in my yard, and Trent happened to walk by. Not that unusual. He and Jackie lived just a few blocks away. He stopped, and we began a rather long conversation about lawns, fertilizers, and gardening. I asked if he wanted something to drink, and we sat in the backyard to continue our conversation. Now, this may seem normal to an outsider, but Trent and I weren't all that friendly, a bit cocky, just not my type. Like I said, we were connected through mutual friends. We had a rather long conversation, most of which was devoted to his children and ex-wife. Apparently, they fought for custody, and she won. There were moral standards written into the guardianship document, and he had heard that she was potentially violating some of the written rules. He felt that this was exactly what he needed to try to get custody of the children. His affection for his children made him seem a little more vulnerable, which was nice. Maybe I'm wrong about Trent. Maybe he's okay after all. Suddenly he asked where Anna was. We had a pretty tough conversation about his family, and now he's asking about Anna? I told him she was shopping, and we immediately started talking about his custody situation. 15 minutes later, Anna appears in a tiny bikini and scurries around behind a screen at the south end of the backyard, saying hello to Trent. She loves to sunbathe in minimalist clothes, and we have a nosy retired neighbor named Henry Anderson. Anderson is a good guy, the kind of guy who looks after your house when you're away and reports on everything that's going on in the neighborhood. In other words, good and reliable, just a little curious. He is also my client. That's why I put up the screen. Meanwhile, Trent stumbled as hard as he could to catch a glimpse of Anna. I led him back to the exit, ending our conversation. As he walked through the gate, he called out, "Need any help with the suntan lotion, Anna?" That's all. This made me remember another incident. After this incident with McAllister, things got better. In fact, everything was wonderful. I remembered this incident from time to time, but I had no reason to dwell on it. After this, our relationship entered a new phase. I guess I partly justified Anna's behavior by thinking that at that moment we were not committed to each other. At least this commitment has not yet been announced. Now we were devoted to each other. Anna was loving and gentle and really fun to be around. Have I had as deep discussions as I have with other girlfriends? To be honest, probably not. But we had fun, and sexually she was ready for anything. Moreover, she was beautiful. I was proud to be with her. When I was with her in public, I felt good to be around. She began asking gentle questions about our future and where we were headed in the long term. I thought about this myself. I'll make an analogy. I always imagined myself driving a Camry, and suddenly I found myself in a Porsche. I had this mental tug of war. One part of my brain said that she might not be the ideal match for me. All this fun was temporary, but not for long. The other side said, "Are you crazy? Every man's dream is to marry a goddess. What's your problem?" I think the argument that broke the camel's back was this. If I broke up with Anna, would any other woman be able to compare physically or sexually with her? Until now in my life, no one has even come close. Plus, I loved her breasts. They are amazing. I proposed to her, and in addition to the ring, I also surprised her with tickets to a Caribbean vacation. Anna was delighted. She loved the ring, and the trip was only a few weeks away. Anna called her mom in California to let her know, and she also called and had a long chat with Sally. I called my parents and told them, and they seemed happy for me, but a little hesitant. "Are you sure about this?" said Dad. "Of course. Why the question?" "Well, this is a big step. Anna is a wonderful girl. I'm very happy for you," he replied. I thanked him, but later thought that there seemed to be some hesitation in his enthusiasm. The resort was amazing. There was a swimming pool, plenty of bars and restaurants on site, and its own private beach with sun loungers and umbrellas. They also had a beach sports hut where you can rent kayaks, jet skis, and other water activities. Once we got there, we changed into our swimsuits for a walk on the beach. Anna had 3 types of bikinis: hot, tight, and micro. I told her that the micro was just for me. "We'll see," she giggled. We grabbed drinks from the beach bar and walked along this beautiful crescent of white sand, fringing the clear blue water. Anna was wearing a hot bikini with a sheer white blanket that covered almost nothing. Men and women looked at her, and I was proud to be with her. We headed back and had a casual dinner at the pool bar. 2 more strong rum drinks, and we headed to the room. We watched the sunset from our balcony, both a little drunk. She stood leaning against the railing, bent at the waist. I approached her from behind and stroked her shoulders. My hands reached out to her beautiful breasts. She purred with lust. This was all the support I needed. It was already getting dark, but anyone could see us if they looked in our direction. She groaned as she reached the finish line, and soon I followed her. From the other end of the complex, someone clapped their hands. The staff at the resort were very helpful. There was always someone there to get towels, give directions, see if we needed food or drink. And then there were the beach boys. They were young men, in their early 20s, patrolling the sun loungers on the beach. They probably worked mostly for tips. Their main clients were women over 40 who enjoyed the attention of young people. They brought drinks, towels, moved chairs or umbrellas, and, if asked, applied suntan lotion. Naturally, they were attracted to Anna in a bikini. For now, she's moved on to her skimpy bikinis. She looked very sexy. One of the beach boys Cruz always seemed to hang around. He had smooth golden skin, a lean build, and a sparkling white-toothed smile. One day we were walking along the beach, and I asked Anna if she wanted to ride a jet ski. "You're without me. I'm going to work on my tan," she said. "I have an hour-long training session on a jet ski." "Have fun and be careful." It was quite fun zipping around the ocean on a jet ski. It took just under an hour, and I was back on the beach. As I walked back to the lounge chairs, I saw Cruz looming over Anna. When I approached, he was massaging her bare back. It definitely made contact with the sides of the breasts. "What's going on here?" Cruz quickly stood up. Mr. JT, I don't want Miss Anna to get a sunburn. She needs sunscreen on her back, he muttered. I can take care of this myself, thank you, and he hurried away. Anna, what the hell does this all mean? I asked her quietly but firmly. I didn't want to make a scene on the beach, but the beach boy was clearly groping her. What are you talking about? Your top is open, you have about 3/4 of an inch of material on your ass, and this teenager had easy access to your body. That's what I'm talking about. Did he feel your breasts? Oh, honey, cool down. He may have touched the sides a little, but they're just for you. When she said that, it really turned me on. I guess I pushed aside the overly flirtatious behavior with Cruz and turned my thoughts to having sex with her as quickly as possible. I suggested a siesta. She knew what I really wanted. I had to carry a towel in front of me to hide my erection as we walked to our room. Eventually, heaven had to end, and we discussed wedding plans on the way home. Anna dozed off during the flight, and I reflected on what a wonderful trip it had been. The only thought that couldn't go away was about the Latino beach boy groping her breasts. After the weekend, when Trent came to stay with us, life went on. The work was intense and rewarding for me. The money I was making wasn't bad. I did most of my own research, and my money seemed to be growing well. Anna also worked at Luca's bar, but usually worked lunch shifts as a waitress. This allowed us to spend most of our evenings together. Anna didn't really have to work, but she liked it, and I think she liked having her own money. As summer began, Anna and Sally started talking about the couple's next meeting. After the Truth or Dare party at our house, I was hoping that maybe these parties would start to die. After much talking and planning, it was decided that the next party would be at Trent and Jackie's, and it was scheduled for mid-July, a few weeks away. Weather permitting, it was supposed to be a pool party. When I heard this, I immediately said to Anna, "Not a single bikini from the Caribbean. I can wear red." "Absolutely not, no way. It's one thing for strangers to see you like this, but not our friends." She said nothing more about this, and in my opinion, the issue was resolved. On the Tuesday before the party, I got a frantic call from my mom. My father had a heart attack. He was at the county hospital, and they were going to have bypass surgery. I told my mother that I would come as soon as possible. I called Anna and told her what was happening. I popped into the house, grabbed an overnight bag for both of us, and we headed to my parents'. I had to control myself so as not to speed up on the way to the hospital. Anna took my hand to calm me down. I was worried about my father and also about my mother. My dad was a reliable force in our family, and my mom really needed his strength. Given that his health was in question, I was worried how she would hold up. By the time we got to the hospital and found my mom, things had improved significantly. My father had a mild heart attack. The bypass surgery was successful, and his prognosis for a full recovery was very positive. They wanted to keep Dad in the hospital until Thursday and then send him home. I stayed with him in the hospital on Tuesday evening, while Mom and Anna went back to the house to rest. They returned on Wednesday morning. My dad was really in a good mood, and when Mom and Anna arrived, he was lying in bed doing a crossword puzzle. We hung out there all day on Wednesday, and it was pretty boring. Anna was polite, but I knew she didn't want to stay in the hospital for long. I didn't really blame her. The hospital is a pretty depressing place. After we brought Dad home on Thursday, I told her I needed to stay, but why didn't she go home? She could take my car and either come back for me on the weekend, or I could take my dad's car. For some time, he had no intention of driving. "No, I'll stay with you," she said. "Thank you, Anna, I appreciate it, but you go home. I want them to get settled, and I just need to be with them for a few days." She reluctantly agreed and left on Thursday afternoon. Most of my day on Thursday was getting my dad settled, running to the grocery store, and just helping my mom as best I could. I also spent time with my dad, and we watched a few baseball games on TV. Boring, yes, but I was glad to be with my parents. On Friday, I called Anna, and she asked when I was going to come home. I told her that at least not until Sunday. How about a party? I completely forgot about this stupid party. "Sorry, honey. I need to be here with my parents. Are you gonna go?" "I don't know. Sally wants me to go, and I think Jackie's sister and her boyfriend will come too." I didn't fully trust Trent, but knowing that there would be newbies in the group made me a little less worried about things getting too spicy like the last party at our house. Okay, let me know what you decide to do. I'll call you tomorrow. On Saturday, my father was a little depressed. I think he overdid it on Friday and was tired. I hung out with him, and when he fell asleep, I fixed some things around the house to help my mom. Mom made me stop and have dinner. Dad was already asleep by this time. The next step was to move everything downstairs and put it on shelves for storage. When I have a project, I focus on it. Suddenly, I looked at my phone and saw that it was almost 10 o'clock. I needed to call Anna. "Hey, what's going on?" I heard some noise in the background. "Oh, hi, honey. I'm at Trent and Jackie's. We're having a good time. Dad is doing well and—" Just then, I heard a high-pitched scream and Anna started giggling. "What's happening?" "What, honey?" She began to laugh. "How much did you drink?" Dear, the connection is not very good. Can I call you bae?" And then more background laughter. Suddenly, I clearly heard Trent say, "Take off that top too." And then another burst of laughter. Some muffled chatter. "Oh, this is getting even hotter," I thought Anna said. "What the hell is going on?" Somehow her phone went offline, but it is obvious that they were not playing a trivial chase. If I went now, it would already be after midnight. At this time, I was exhausted and didn't want to risk going home tonight. At the same time, I really needed to know what was going on. Suddenly, an idea came into my head: Henry Anderson. Since he was in my contacts, I called Henry. I explained that I needed some photos of what was going on at Trent and Jackie's. He was ready. I told him where they lived and described where to position myself to photograph their backyard. He said he would come there immediately. I finished, turned off the phone, and went to bed. If something bad was going on with Trent, I didn't want to go through it tonight. I was physically and emotionally exhausted from worrying about my father. I slept soundly and long. The next morning, I turned on my phone. Anderson sent some photos. They turned out worse than I imagined. Photo 1. Anna is completely naked, and Trent is chasing her with his giant erect tool. Photo 2. Naked and excited. Carl grabs Anna's breasts. Photo 3. Anna and Sally, both naked, ass to ass, dancing for Trent and Carl. Photo 4. Trent and Carl have sex with Anna. I didn't need to see anything else. This was irrefutable proof of Anna's infidelity. I had seen the warning signs before, but I didn't believe she would cross that line. It was unforgivable. A black fog clouded my brain. I was simply numb, trying to comprehend what I saw. I told my mom I was going for a walk. "Is everything okay, JT?" "Yes, everything is fine. I didn't want to put all this mess on her because of Dad's health issues." I walked and thought. I cried and thought. I planned and thought. Several hours passed before I returned home. I was deeply saddened, but I decided to end the marriage, minimize my financial damage, and pay back those two idiots, Trent and Carl. First, I had to find out the whole story, and I didn't want Anna to know what I knew. Anna called around noon and was especially kind on the phone. "I miss you like your dad will when you come home. I really miss you and I need you." I almost blamed the bitch for what she did at the party, but I kept my mouth shut. I was going to figure out how to fool her. I just had to make a plan. I wanted to protect myself and my assets. I knew I had to act normal around Anna. I told her that my father was getting worse and I needed to stay another week. Dad was actually fine and progressing ahead of schedule. I said that I would call her and that it would be better if she didn't come. It's hard for Dad to bear this excitement. I actually left for the city on Monday evening. I called my old roommate, Julian, to see if I could stay with him for a few days. He seemed surprised, but agreed. When I got to Julian, he said his brother was arriving from New York on Thursday. His brother was an actor, and the play he was in had closed, and he was considering alternative career options. I explained to Julian what happened and showed him the photographs. He was surprised. He knew that Anna was flirtatious, but he didn't think that she would cheat on me. I told him how upset I was and how I wanted to somehow get even with Anna and this whole group. I also told him that I needed to hide what I knew from Anna until I had a plan. He agreed, not to say a word. The next day, I waited at Carl's work. Carl was a diesel mechanic, and he told me there was a supervisory position opening up soon, and he was desperate for a promotion. I saw him walking towards his truck, waved, and said, "Carl, let's get some beer." He was surprised to see me, but Carl didn't turn down beer very often. There was a place on the corner, and we went there. Some kind of tavern for workers, and it was not very crowded. After we ordered beers, I asked him what happened on Saturday night. "Just another typical party," Carl replied. "Is this typical?" And I showed him one of the photographs. "Hey man, what were we supposed to do? The girls took off their clothes, it didn't mean anything." "Okay, I understand that this is nothing special. Oh, by the way, what do you think your boss would say about how this doesn't mean anything?" I knew his boss was very religious, and Carl was really hoping for a promotion. He stood up and I stood up. He pushed me threateningly. I turned and hit Carl. It was like hitting a softball. It was perfect. He immediately fell down. There wasn't an iota of fight left in him. I've always noticed that the minute you stand up to a bully, he becomes a coward. Carl was finished. I helped him up. It all happened so quickly that no one in the bar even noticed. And if they did, they didn't care. He started apologizing and blaming others. I told him to shut up and listen. I had a few questions. I also told him that if he didn't want his boss to get the photos, he had to tell me the truth to all my questions, and not let Anna, Sally, or anyone else hear that I knew what was going on. He agreed. He seemed desperate to hide the photos from his boss. We sat for over an hour, and I learned a lot about Anna. Everything he said was believable and had a twisted meaning. Anna, Sally, and Carl all went to high school together. This was one of the socio-economic cross-sections of children. There were the rich, the middle class, and the lower middle class. The group that Anna and Sally were in were made up of poorer children. Around the time girls hit puberty, they also realized the differences in their clothes, their houses, and their parents' cars. Wealthier kids made fun of them for the old-fashioned clothes and old cars their families owned. The great equalizer for girls was their bodies. Anna was gorgeous, and although Sally was a little plump, she had very large breasts. The girls became popular. Carl was pretty sure they had both lost their virginities by the time they turned 15. Later, in high school, Sally told him that she and Anna had had a conversation. It went something like this. Anna told Sally that all she wanted was to have nice clothes, nice cars, and a nice house. She liked sex, so she didn't mind trading sex for material goods. She said she was going to find a man who could provide this. The richer, the better. Carl also told me that at the time Anna and I started dating, she had a boyfriend. She told Sally that she thought my prospects were better. After she started dating me, she continued dating him for almost 3 months before they broke up. "You mean she slept with me and her old boyfriend for 3 months?" "Damn," he said. "Since you two got married, I know at least 2 other guys she slept with. And that's besides Trent and me." "Who?" "I don't know all the details, but I know one of them was some nice dude named McCallum or something like that." She said you knew him. "It must have been that idiot McAllister we saw at that party before we got married." I just sat there, seething with anger. Carl didn't seem to care. He just continued drinking his beer. There was no doubt that I could not remain married to her. I needed a plan. "So you're saying that if someone came along with more money, a better car, and a better house, Anna would rush to him?" I'm sure she would have done so. After a few minutes of sitting and thinking, I asked him about Saturday night. "What happened to Jackie? Was she involved in this? I haven't seen her in any photographs. Turns out her sister's boyfriend was an asshole and left. Jackie's sister was upset, so Jackie took her home and stayed with her. This opened up the celebration for others. So Jackie doesn't know what happened?" "No, and don't tell her," he replied. "Well, don't you care that your wife has sex with other guys?" "Wife? We are not married. She always calls me her husband. We've been together for a long time. No. When I get married, it won't be someone like Sally. She's a wonderful girl, and I kind of love her. But she's not the one I'm marrying. That's why we don't have children. It was time to leave. I had a lot to think about. Here are the key facts. 1. Anna was more than promiscuous. 2. The main reason she was with me was financial security, and she would have left if a better prospect came along. 3. No one except Carl knows that I know, and for now it will remain so. 4. Even an idiot like Carl was smarter than me when it came to women. I went back to Julian and told him everything I had heard from Carl. I was sad, but sadness gave way to anger. Yes, and I was also embarrassed. I wonder how many of them laughed at me behind my back. I had to make her and maybe a few others pay. Julian asked a few questions, then plugged in his headphones and started working on his laptop. I sat there drinking a bottle of red wine and getting angrier and angrier. Julian hung up and asked, "She never dated John Paul, did she?" "No, I haven't even seen him since we were in college." "Why do you ask?" He simply shook his head and reconnected. "Can you get about $30,000 in your hands?" "Yes, but why?" "I also need you to rent a BMW for 6 months if this all works out." He continued typing with a sly smile on his face. Finally, he said he had a plan. It was going to cost me at least $30,000 and the lease of the BMW. He told me to go to Anna's house tomorrow and do the best acting job of my life. I'll have to pretend everything is fine. I have to go back to Julian's on Thursday after work. Then John Paul will be here. The next day, I called Anna and said that I would be home that evening. I did my best to act normal. Every time she asked if something was wrong, I simply told her that I was worried about my father. Luckily, either I was a better actor than I give myself credit for, or, more likely, she just didn't pay much attention to me. On Thursday evening, I met Julian and John Paul at Julian's apartment. After pleasantries were exchanged, Julian outlined his plan. John Paul seduces Anna by posing as a New York investment banker. He must reluctantly reveal how rich he is, and then make her fall in love with him and his money. John Paul was in a play that was starting in about 5 months, so he had to get everything done in that time. John Paul was 2 years younger than Julian and an attractive guy. Long hair, a slim build, and a naturally attractive smile. She will definitely like him. "I have to ask you one thing, man," he said. "Do you mind if I sleep with her? I mean, she's your wife." I told him that I don't care and it can't be that they haven't had sex for 5 months. They'd rather sleep in 5 days. I gave them her bar schedule and told them it would be better if we met weekly. I didn't want to get caught, and not only did John Paul have to play his part, but I had to act like a devoted, ignorant husband. The week passed without any incidents or mistakes on my part. I tried to notice any changes in Anna. Yes, we had sex. Living with Anna, sex was just a normal part of our lives. The good news is that making love to Anna was not a slow romantic act. It was almost a physical competition. Of course, it brings satisfaction, but it is also tiring. On Thursday evening, we met at Julian's apartment. I was interested to hear the report. My overwhelming desire was to make her fall for John Paul, but a small part of me hoped that she wouldn't do it. John Paul has been to the bar 3 times. The first time, he just wanted her to notice him. The second time, light conversation and jokes. The third time, we met. She told me that tomorrow she works from 11 to 3. I'm going to come over at 2 o'clock for a late lunch and have coffee with her. I had to buy a $200 costume to play my role. The next week continued. Work, home. I couldn't help but wonder what was going on with Anna and John Paul. One day I noticed that she was home late at night. I wonder what that meant. It was like waiting for the next episode of your favorite weekly TV show. I couldn't wait to hear the latest report on Thursday evening. Here's what John Paul said. They had coffee on Friday. Anna admitted that she was married, but hinted that there were problems and seemed approachable. She said she wasn't working on Tuesday and agreed to meet him for lunch. John Paul hinted that he was rich and slowly gave little clues. Life with Anna continued, but I began to notice a coolness emanating from her. Fine. On Tuesday, I returned home a little after 5, and Anna was not home. I went for a run, and when I came back, Anna was gone. While I was making salad for dinner, she came home. "Hello, honey. How was your day?" "This will be interesting," I thought. "Oh, yes, I worked late," she replied. I knew it didn't work, but it was good. "Were you busy?" She told some made-up story about her work. I felt how we were moving away from each other. The sex was still good. Looking back, sex for us was mostly physical, without much emotion, so it wasn't hard to fake it. I was going to make it easier for her. I told her that my father needed help, and I would have to leave on Friday afternoon. She made a half-hearted attempt to ask if she should go too. I told her it was okay. I was just going to help out a little and then stay the next week and see clients. On Thursday evening, I learned that John Paul had progressed. Tuesday lunch turned into a makeout session. He called her on Wednesday, after she found out I would be out of town, and they made plans for Friday evening. I felt like a puppeteer, pulling strings behind the scenes to make the puppet move in the direction I wanted. It worked. As the weeks passed, their relationship developed. The sex between Anna and John Paul happened the weekend I was at my parents' house. No surprise there. Our relationship at home was changing. She was moving away. It was a little bittersweet. From time to time, I saw flashes of the soulful woman I once loved, and it was sad. After about 3 months, John Paul began to swear his love to Anna and ask her to be with him. By this time, Anna believed that John Paul was a wealthy New York investment banker with an expensive Manhattan apartment. When he asked her about her husband, Anna said almost nothing. Unless the relationship is over and she's moving on, she just hasn't talked to her husband about it yet. A few weeks later, Anna told me that she and Sally were going to a spa in California for the weekend. And that was okay? I knew full well that John Paul had invited her to go to Sun Valley for the weekend. "Of course, you'll probably like it," I told her. That night I was rewarded with great sex. I knew John Paul was going to propose at a resort in Idaho. The cubic zirconia engagement ring cost almost $500. They say cubic zirconia is almost indistinguishable from natural diamond. Moreover, believing that John Paul was rich, there was no reason to be suspicious. The following Thursday evening, I received a report about a romantic trip to Sun Valley. He proposed to her and she accepted. She told John Paul that she had to break up with her husband. He wanted to get married as soon as possible. He told her he had to return to New York in 2 months, which was true, and he needed her to be with him. That part wasn't true. Anna told John Paul that she would speak to her husband this week and inform him of the divorce. My plan was to fight her and act like I didn't want her to leave. The plan was to agree that I would keep all my assets in an immediate divorce. Everything worked flawlessly. When Anna told me she was leaving, I was shocked and saddened. And of course, I got angry. "We're married. I won't let you leave. I won't let you get a divorce. I will require many months of consultations. We will figure this out," I declared. I really excelled at acting. When she met John Paul at the luxury condominium he was renting with my money, she said I wouldn't let her go that easily. "Anna, my love," said John Paul, "I have all the money we will ever need. I have an apartment in the city, and I'm looking for a beach house on Long Island. All I need to make my life perfect is you as my wife." You can imagine the dollar signs spinning in her brain. "This is what we will offer your husband," he continued. "I will ask my lawyer to draw up a document in which he will keep all his assets. In exchange, he will agree to an immediate divorce." She was all for it. When she returned home, I alternated between being angry with her and begging her to stay with me. I kept telling her that I would require several months of counseling before she left. I knew that she wanted to leave quickly to be with a millionaire. On Friday evening, she came home with a divorce document. This gave her an immediate divorce upon relinquishing any rights to my assets, our home, my car, and all of my investments. I gave the performance of my life. I screamed, whined, and told her that I would never let her go. Then I told her that I needed to be alone in the basement. While she thought I was sad and depressed, I was watching a baseball game. Finally, with my eyes full of tears, I had some Visine stashed away, I dutifully walked out with the signed document. She had the decency not to celebrate in front of me. As she left, I couldn't help but notice her triumphant gait. At this moment, it was mid-September. We were supposed to officially get divorced on October 5th. She gave up any rights to my assets and planned to move to New York, where they would be married by the end of October. We met that Thursday at Julian's to plan the final act. This is how the plan was laid out. Anna will stay in the rented apartment for the next 2 weeks. On Friday, when they left, she would return to our house and pick up her clothes and furniture. John Paul told Anna that he would meet her at the house at noon with a truck. They would then take her things to a moving company and ship them to his home in New York. Of course, by the time Anna is waiting with her things, John Paul will already be gone. John Paul told her his last name was Taylor. It would be difficult for her to ever track him down. Yes, and quite expensive. She simply didn't have any money. "You are quite a cruel person," John Paul told me. "I don't agree," I said. "This is not nearly as cruel as she treated me." "I understand. I hope you don't mind me saying this, but I'm really going to miss this piece of ass. She was as good as it gets." "Yeah, I'll miss this too," I sighed. My communication with Anna was polite. I had to feign remorse several times. I didn't ask her to change her mind and stay with me. I was afraid that she might agree. That Friday I met her at home as she was packing her things. I almost thought about trying to sleep with her one last time. But I decided I'd had enough. She was dressed as if she was going to some special place. She thought that was true. By 12:30 p.m., she made her first phone call to John Paul. But the number was closed. She asked if she could use my phone. Same result. She called the luxury condominium, and they said it was paid for until Saturday and would be rented out again after that. She asked me if I could leave her things while she went back to the apartment and looked at what was taking John Paul so long. I didn't talk to her until the end of the weekend. It's time for phase 2 of the plan. I sent 3 packages with a collection of photos from a sex party they had while I was with my dad. In all the photographs, Trent, Sally, Carl, and Anna's faces, and bodies for that matter, were easily identifiable. Package 1 went to Carl's deeply religious boss. The photographs were accompanied by a note that said, "I believe that the moral character of a person is reflected in the quality of the work he performs. And you?" Package 2 went to Trent's ex-wife. The note attached to this photo said, "Look what your ex is doing. Thank God the children are with you." Package 3 went to Jackie. The note said, "I think you and I missed the funniest part of the party. Sorry to break this news to you, but you deserve to know." And he added, "As soon as everything calms down, would you like to drink something?" I signed all the notes with my name and phone number. I had one more unfinished business, and that was McAllister. Maybe I'll ask Julian to come up with something for him too. Of course, Anna tried to revive our relationship. Not a single chance of that happening. She showed up the following Monday evening as if she had just returned home from work. "Hello, honey. Sorry for our little misunderstanding. I'm home forever." I just stared at her. "Anna, you ruined my life," I shouted. "This is not your home. You are running away with someone to New York." "No, I changed my mind. I want to stay with you. No more games." "Forget about it. Get the hell out of here and never come back," I said coldly. At this point, she resorted to her old tricks, already taking off her top and unclasping her bra. I've fallen for this tactic too many times to give up now. Closing the door in her face, I said, "Say hi to John Paul for me." I looked out the window. She stood with a blank expression on her face, her beautiful breasts exposed for everyone to see, her brow furrowed as she tried to piece together the meaning of my John Paul reference. In all our discussions, his name was always kept secret. Of course, Henry Anderson was leaning over the fence and looking at her. Last I heard, she was living with Sally. I'm sure she's already looking. Carl not only didn't get the promotion, I heard he was fired. He left town, leaving Sally behind. Trent was a completely different matter. When he went to a custody hearing, he was soundly and firmly denied. And in fact, the court increased his child support and limited his visitation rights. Obviously, photographs played a big role in this decision. One Saturday night, Jackie called me frantically and told me that Trent was coming to my house. He was drunk and had a gun. Apparently, he found where the messages were coming from. I quickly made my way to the backyard, grabbed some blankets and pillows, and created a faka body under the blankets as if I was reading outside in a lawn chair. I left a small light on to get his attention. I was armed with a baseball bat and hid in the thick bushes. Even if Jackie hadn't called, I would have heard him coming. He knocked on the front door, and when I didn't answer, he walked through the gate into the backyard. He immediately noticed the chaise lounge set up. He snuck up and shot twice into the blankets. The first blow must have broken his arm. First, I wanted to neutralize the weapon. The next two were across his crotch. I also wanted to neutralize this particular weapon. Then I called the police. No special investigation was required regarding the weapon, and the shots fired. I defended myself, and Trent was charged with attempted murder. I called and thanked Jackie for the warning. "You're welcome," she said. "Now, did you offer me something to drink?" Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.